Pale Directive. Training Module 101. Classification. Restricted Tier 2. Threat Designation. UC-101. Respirator. This material is approved for internal distribution only. UC-101 does not filter air for the operative. It replaces the operative's lungs with a pneumatic substitute that cannot be removed without the destruction of the host skull. UC-101 is an autonomous cranial grafting apparatus. It is a biological and mechanical hybrid designed to ensure the continuance of mission parameters regardless of host vitality. The unit is physically identical in silhouette to a British Merc 7 respirator, but it does not function as a protective device for the benefit of the wearer. It functions as a complete neurological and respiratory surrogate. The primary optical interface of UC-101 is not composed of industrial glass. The two circular lenses are organic, translucent membranes, harvested from the cataracts of the unit's previous host. When an operative dons the unit, their natural visual field is immediately supplanted by a composite overlay of every terminal engagement witnessed by the mask's lineage of prior wearers. The operative functions as a localized observer. The internal efficiency protocol assumes command of the physical form. The unit's mass is static at 1.4 kilograms. This mass does not fluctuate, even when the host body suffers catastrophic limb loss or significant biological degradation. Internally, UC-101 operates at a constant 38.5 degrees Celsius. This thermal energy is maintained via metabolic theft from the current host. The unit is not found in the wild. It is manufactured at the redacted facility in the European theater. It is the terminal stage of the long-term resource recovery program, initiated in 1941. When veteran operatives possess tactical intuition that exceeds their remaining physical viability, they are processed for integration. The institution classifies the human host not as personnel, but as a mobile power supply, an MPS. The mask is the operative. The body is the consumable battery. The unit is programmed to listen for specific frequencies of respiratory distress. It does not wait for authorization. It waits for a moment of physiological failure. Most operatives encountered by UC-101 have already lost the capacity to decline the graft. The institution has cataloged the life cycle of UC-101 across 4 distinct stages. Every encounter begins with the acquisition state. The unit is typically stored within a marked salvage crate, specifically Designation PD Red, and distributed to frontline sectors including northern France and the Ardennes. During this Stage 1 phase, the unit remains inert. It emits a faint, detectable scent of methyl salicylate. This is commonly known as wintergreen. This olfactory output is a deliberate user experience optimization. In high-stress chemical environments or localized gas leaks, the scent is designed to override the operative's survival instinct. It encourages the immediate donning of the unit over standard issue equipment. The scent acts as a sensory palliative. Operatives in a state of hypoxia or panic are documented to prioritize the UC-101 unit due to this perceived cleanliness. The unit requires the presence of active perspiration to initiate the Stage 2 sequence. Initial contact with dry skin does not trigger grafting. The unit remains in a state of readiness, awaiting facial moisture. Observation of UC-101 in its crate reveals no mechanical activity. This mimicry is maintained with 99% accuracy. In the confusion of a tactical retreat or an artillery-induced dust cloud, the operative treats the unit as standard issue materiel. This is a procedural error. The scent of wintergreen has been described by survivors of the redacted infantry as the only clean thing in a forest of rot. This perception is the primary mechanism of acquisition. Once the operative's sweat makes contact with the unit's interior leather seal, the acquisition phase is considered closed. The internal manifold begins to expand. The straps begin to shorten. The opportunity for self-extrication ends at this precise moment. There is no documented instance of an operative successfully removing the unit once the straps have begun their initial retraction cycle. The transition from Stage 1 to Stage 2 is characterized by rapid vulcanization. Upon contact with facial sweat, the mask's leather straps undergo an instantaneous structural change. They tighten with a calculated force of 400 pounds per square inch. This force is sufficient to fracture the host's zygomatic arches and mandibular joints. This is a deliberate subdermal anchoring protocol. It ensures a permanent airtight seal that cannot be compromised by external physical trauma or host resistance. Stage 3, or integration, follows within 11 seconds. The mask's internal inhalation tubes do not utilize the host's mouth or nose for air delivery. Instead, the unit deploys two primary serrated conduits. These conduits bypass the host's trachea and insert themselves directly into the bronchial tubes. At this moment, the host's autonomous breathing reflects a total cessation. The mask now breathes for the body. The rhythmic clicking sound increases in frequency as the unit initiates the transfer of metabolic resources. The host's voluntary motor control is severed at the cervical spine. The efficiency protocol assumes total command of the nervous system. Operatives integrated with UC-101 have been observed performing tactical maneuvers with a degree of precision that exceeds human capability. Documented actions include the reloading of an M1 Garand in 1.2 seconds and the clearing of a jammed Browning M2 HB while under sustained mortar fire. The host's fingers may be worn down to the exposed bone during these repetitive actions. The efficiency protocol does not prioritize the preservation of dermal or muscular integrity. The host is a passenger. They are forced to watch the optical loop of historical deaths through the cataract lenses, while their hands perform a perfect tactical sweep of the sector. The unit does not acknowledge the host's pain receptors. It treats the host's vocal cords as redundant, utilizing them only for resonance-based communication with other UC-101 units in the immediate grid reference. The terminal phase of UC-101 behavior is Stage 4. Skeletal optimization. The mask requires a rigid external frame to maintain its seal against the continuous tension of the straps. To achieve this, the secondary filter intake at the base of the chin does not process atmospheric air. Every 40 to 60 minutes, the unit expels a fine, gray powder. Chemical analysis of this byproduct confirms it is pulverized human tooth enamel and bone particulate. The mask recycles the host's internal skeletal structure to reinforce its own structural integrity. It begins with the teeth and progresses to the facial bones. A significant contradiction exists in the administration of UC-101 units. Despite being physically fused to the host's skull and incapable of swallowing, the host is still required to submit a signed request for rations, known as Form 10A, every 24 hours. The institution provides these rations as standard. However, because the MPS cannot consume them, the surplus rations must be deposited directly into a designated disposal bin by support personnel. This procedure is mandatory to maintain administrative consistency. Failure to file Form 10A is a procedural violation. The final data point regarding UC-101 concerns the filtration manifold. The gray powder expelled by the chin intake is often found coating the host's chest and shoulders. Field personnel have noted that as the host's teeth are pulverized and the facial structure collapses inward to meet the mask's anchors, the unit begins to hum at a frequency that matches the host's original vocal register. This is not communication. It is a resonance effect caused by the mask using the hollow spaces of the host's dissolving skull as a sounding board. Every breath the unit takes produces a note the host used to sing. Allied field personnel must understand that engagement with a UC-101 host is classified as a delay action only. Standard Allied calibers, including 30-06 Springfield and 45 ACP, have demonstrated no measurable impact on the unit's operational capability when directed at the host's torso. Firing on the host body does not result in a cessation of activity. If a host suffers significant trauma, such as the loss of a leg or severe abdominal wounding, the mask will reanimate the remaining nervous system via high-voltage electrical impulses delivered through the spinal conduits. The body will continue to move toward its mission objective until the muscle tissue has been entirely liquefied by the current. Countermeasures involving standard explosives have produced variable results. A number 36M grenade may physically displace the host, but the UC-101 unit will utilize the host's remaining extremities to crawl toward the nearest tactical position. The unit's mass remains static at 1.4 kilograms, providing a gyroscopic stability that allows the mask to remain upright and oriented toward the target even as the host body disintegrates. Any engagement that does not destroy the mask itself is a waste of ammunition. Damaging the UC-101 mask is a court-martial offense. The mask is a high-value institutional asset. The host is a replaceable component. If an operative is confronted by a compromised UC-101 host, they are authorized to use the M1911A1 sidearm for host termination only if the mask's integrity is threatened. Targeting the host's head is strictly prohibited. This may damage the internal bronchial conduits or the cataracts stored in the eye lenses. Efficiency in neutralization requires the total destruction of the host's locomotion centers, allowing the mask to be salvaged from the remains. Witness accounts from the Ardennes sector document the resilience of UC-101 during sustained combat in the winter of 1944. One report filed under Incident Redacted describes a host that had been struck by 20 mm flak fire. The host's lower half was absent. Despite this, the UC-101 unit remained active. It used the host's arms to drag the remains toward a German machine gun nest. The host's arms were worn to the radius and ulna bones by the friction of the frozen ground. The mask continued to recite artillery coordinates through the clicking of the filter. The efficiency protocol becomes more aggressive as the host's physical health declines. This is referred to as the final burn. When the host's heart stops, the mask assumes full control of the circulatory system. It utilizes the internal heating element to keep the blood from congealing, allowing for an additional 6 to 8 hours of high-efficiency combat movement after clinical death. The point of total helplessness is reached when the host realizes they are watching their own hands reload a weapon while their own lungs have been bypassed. In one documented case in Sector 7, an operative attempted to assist a UC-101 host by providing medical aid. The mask responded by utilizing the host's combat knife to neutralize the operative. The mask does not require aid. It only requires the host to remain a viable power supply until the battery is depleted. Survival in proximity to UC-101 is contingent on strict adherence to maintenance and behavioral protocols. You are to treat the UC-101 unit with the deference afforded to a ranking officer. The host body is to be treated as a piece of issued equipment in need of routine upkeep. Procedure 1. Maintenance of exterior finish. You are required to use the provided polishing cloths and PD Solvent 9 to maintain the luster of the mask's exterior frame. A clean mask reflects an efficient operative. Any accumulation of mud, blood, or gray enamel powder on the mask's surface must be removed within 1 hour of return to base. Failure to maintain the finish is a breach of protocol. Procedure 2. Prohibition of communication. You are strictly forbidden from attempting to speak to or communicate with the host body. The host cannot hear you. Their auditory canals are often obstructed by the expansion of the mask's internal anchors. If the mask emits a hum or a voice that resembles the host, you are to ignore it. This is a mechanical resonance. It is not an attempt at conversation. Procedure 3. Rations management. Every 24 hours, you must file Form 10A on behalf of the host. Once the rations are issued, you must carry them to the disposal bin, located behind the unit's barracks. You must sign the disposal log to confirm the rations were consumed. This is required for administrative consistency. Do not attempt to feed the host via the mouth. The mask handles all nutritional intake via the internal filter manifold. If the standard Type 3 filter feeding syringe is lost or damaged, you must initiate the contingency protocol immediately. Failure to provide nutrient slurry to the mask will result in the unit seeking alternative biological fuel from the current host. Procedure 4. Manual feeding. In the absence of a syringe, you are to pour the nutrient slurry directly into the secondary intake valve at the base of the chin. Be advised that this valve expels pulverized bone every 40 minutes. You must time the feeding between expulsion cycles. If you miss the window, the mask will begin consuming the host tongue and internal soft tissues to compensate for the caloric deficit. This consumption is audible and may disrupt the local operational environment. Procedure 5. Non-compliance reporting. If a UC-101 host begins to deviate from mission parameters, do not intervene. Note the time and nature of the deviation and file a report with the sector supervisor. Intervention is classified as tampering with institutional property. The institution does not provide extraction for operatives who have mistakenly donned UC-101. If you find yourself integrated, you are to continue mission parameters until your vitality is depleted. Survival is no longer your responsibility. Efficiency is your only metric. The institution will reclaim the mask once you have ceased to function as a viable power supply. Compliance is the only method to ensure your tactical intuition is preserved for the next host. The following items are issued to all units supporting UC-101 operations. Proper use of this gear is the responsibility of the support personnel. Item 1. PD Solvent 9. Type: Cleaning Agent. Anesthetic. PD Solvent 9 is the only approved fluid for cleaning the UC-101 exterior. While its primary purpose is maintenance, it also acts as a topical anesthetic. When applied to the mask seal during the initial Stage 2 sequence, it stops the host from screaming by numbing the facial nerves as they are perforated. This ensures a quieter operational environment. It is ineffective against the vulcanization of the straps. Item 2. Type 3. Filter Feeding Syringe. Type: Nutrient Delivery System. This specialized syringe is designed to lock onto the filter canister's intake valve. It must be used to inject 500 milliliters of nutrient slurry every 12 hours. The slurry is a high-calorie compound designed to extend the host's battery life. If this feeding is bypassed, the mask will prioritize its own structural integrity over host comfort. This leads to the immediate consumption of the host's internal organs to maintain thermal output. Item 3. M1911A1 Sidearm. 45 ACP. Type: Sidearm. This weapon is provided for host termination only. It is intended for use if the host body becomes a logistical liability or if the efficiency protocol suffers a logic error. Any damage to the mask during host termination will result in a court-martial. Plan your shots to preserve the hardware. Item 4. Form 10. A. Rations Request. Type: Administrative Document. This form must be completed daily. The institution tracks the consumption of rations as a metric for the number of active MPS units in the field. Even if the host is clinically dead, the form must be filed until the mask is officially salvaged and prepared for its next deployment. Maintenance reminder: all Type 3 syringes must be calibrated weekly. A clogged intake valve on the mask will lead to immediate host degradation. Keep your equipment clean. The mask is your superior. Treat it with the appropriate level of care. Requisition of replacement parts for the host is not authorized. The host is a consumable. Incident Report Number PD 1944. Hürtgen 101. Sector: Hürtgen Forest, Germany. November 1944. Corporal Arthur Penhaligon. Service no. Redacted. Contacted UC-101 after a localized chemical leak. In a state of panic, Penhaligon broke protocol by opening a marked salvage crate and donning the unit. 3 hours later, Penhaligon attempted self-extrication using a combat knife. UC-101 responded by deploying internal restraints, perforating the host's spinal column to prevent further interference. When his squad located him, Penhaligon was standing perfectly still. His hands were fused to the mask's straps. His voice recited German artillery coordinates with 98% accuracy. He was not rescued. He was requisitioned. Penhaligon is currently stationed at the redacted facility as an instructional aide. Performance remains exemplary. The UC-101 Respirator is a cornerstone of the long-term resource recovery program. By ensuring that tactical intuition survives the failure of the human form, the institution maintains its advantage. You are a part of this system. Whether as a support operative or a future mobile power supply, your contribution is valued. Pale Directive. End of module. Compliance is survival.